Step into your purpose, chosen one. The call doesn't come to those who are ready, it comes to those who are willing. Picture stepping onto a stage you didn't even know existed, with no script, no rehearsal, and no clue what role you were meant to play. Yet somehow, every word, every movement flows effortlessly, as if it was written in your soul all along. It feels surreal, almost impossible, but that's the mark of the anointed. You weren't chosen because you were prepared. You were chosen because you were destined. The path ahead may be uncertain, but trust this: you've already proven you belong. While you were weathering storms, enduring heartbreak, and pushing through seasons of uncertainty, heaven was orchestrating something greater. Every tear, every setback, every moment you thought you were forgotten was part of a divine curriculum. And here's the truth: you've already passed tests you didn't even know you were taking. History's greatest changemakers often began their journeys in obscurity. David was just a shepherd boy, Ruth just a widow in a foreign land, and Gideon just a man hiding in fear. Yet, in the unseen, they were being shaped, refined, and prepared for a purpose far beyond their imagination. So take heart, your struggles weren't for nothing. They were the foundation for the greatness you're about to step into. Before you second-guess your worthiness or wonder if grace filled in the gaps, let me remind you, this was no accident. Every sleepless night, every battle fought in silence, every time you chose to rise when it would have been easier to fall, you weren't just surviving, you were proving something to the heavens. This wasn't just a test, it was preparation for something far greater. And now, you're not just being celebrated, you're being elevated. This isn't a quiet victory. This is the kind of breakthrough that shifts atmospheres and commands attention. You're not just entering a new chapter, you're stepping into authority, into purpose, into power. Get ready. This isn't just a promotion, it's a calling, and the world is about to see exactly why you were chosen. Your journey was written in a dialect only heaven could speak, a language so intricate that those around you could only see fragments of the story. They saw the struggles, but not the sacred purpose behind them. They witnessed the closed doors, but not the divine hands reshaping your path. Every trial, every tear, every moment of silence wasn't random. It was intentional, tailored for a test only you could take. And while others may have misjudged your pain as defeat, heaven saw it as determination, as faith refined in fire. The weight you carried wasn't a sign of weakness, it was evidence of your calling. What looked like failure to the world was, in truth, heaven's way of marking you as chosen, preparing you for a destiny no one else could comprehend. The loneliness wasn't rejection, it was refinement. The betrayals weren't random, they were revelations, exposing who and what couldn't go with you to the next level. Even the silence wasn't abandonment, it was alignment, a sacred space where heaven watched to see if you would keep walking when the road felt uncertain, keep believing when the evidence seemed absent, and keep trusting when the answers didn't come. What looked like loss was actually a lesson. What felt like pain was purpose in disguise, and every step you took in faith was a step closer to destiny. This wasn't about proving your worth to the world, it was about proving your unwavering trust in the one who called you. And now, heaven has weighed every tear, measured every act of quiet obedience, and declared you ready, ready for the shift, for the breakthrough, for the doors that no man can shut. You didn't just pass, you were transformed, and now, nothing can stop what's coming next. Heaven's definition of success rewrites the rules of the world. While earth celebrates applause, status, and visible victories, heaven looks deeper, into the unseen, the quiet, the heart. Down here, people measure worth by how much you have, how many know your name, or how high you've climbed. But heaven's scale is different. It weighs your faith when the answers don't come, your perseverance when the road feels endless, your obedience when no one else is watching. What looked like failure to the world was actually faithfulness in heaven's eyes. They saw delays, but heaven saw your willingness to wait. They saw setbacks, but heaven saw your resilience. They saw rejection, but heaven saw a heart that refused to stop trusting. Heaven's grading system doesn't reward the loud or the flashy, It crowns the faithful, the patient, and the surrendered. And in that unseen victory, you've already won. Every time you held on when letting go seemed tempting, every time you chose truth over shortcuts, every time you praised through the pain, you were building a record that heaven alone could see. While others looked for instant results, heaven was testing for lasting faith. The delays weren't denials, they were divine sieves, shaking loose the distractions, the doubts, and the people who couldn't go where you're headed. What looked like failure to them was actually refinement. Heaven wasn't interested in halfway commitment or surface-level obedience. It was shaping you for something greater, something enduring. Every tear, every sacrifice, every unseen act of faith was preparing you for a season so significant, only what was pure and purposeful could remain. Some doors had to remain closed because they would have led you away from your purpose. Some people had to walk away because they couldn't carry the weight of your destiny. Some dreams had to be delayed because they weren't aligned with the greater vision heaven had for you. God's timing isn't driven by urgency or the approval of others. It's shaped by preparation and purpose. What looked like stagnation to the world was actually divine alignment, a careful positioning for what's next. Heaven doesn't promote based on appearances or popularity. It promotes based on endurance, trust, and the lessons learned in the fire. And now, the waiting wasn't wasted. It was the platform being built beneath your feet. The elevation isn't just a reward, it's a declaration that what God has prepared for you is unstoppable, undeniable, and right on time. In the silence, you were not abandoned, you were being observed. The quiet wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Just like a teacher steps back during an exam, heaven was watching to see if you would apply what you had already been taught. No hints, no shortcuts, no immediate answers, just the space to prove your faith in what you couldn't see. The silence wasn't emptiness, it was trust. Trust that you had been equipped for this moment. Trust that what you couldn't hear didn't mean God wasn't near. Others may have doubted your journey, questioning why nothing seemed to change, but they didn't understand that silence is where strength is refined. It's where faith grows deeper, where endurance is proven, and where heaven watches closely, not to punish, but to prepare you for what's coming next. This was never about your faith in the light, but your trust in the dark. It wasn't about hearing God in the moments of clarity, but believing in Him when everything felt clouded. Could you hold on when the answers didn't come? Could you keep walking when the path wasn't clear? The silence wasn't a rejection, it was a revelation of your growth. Heaven wasn't testing your ability to succeed, it was testing your willingness to surrender. Would you wait patiently, trusting His timing, or try to force doors open on your own? Many lose their way in the silence, mistaking it for abandonment, but you didn't. You stood firm, resisted the urge to rush, and chose faith over fear. And because you stayed, because you trusted when it was hardest, you didn't just endure, you overcame. Heaven saw, and heaven is rewarding what only heaven could measure. The test wasn't only about your patience, it was about the depth of your trust. It wasn't just about following instructions, it was about proving that your faith could stand even in the absence of tangible proof. Anyone can believe when the path is lit, but only those truly prepared can keep walking in the dark, trusting the destination is still ahead. And you did. You showed that your faith wasn't tied to signs or constant reassurance, but rooted in something far deeper. Now, the silence is breaking, and what was once hidden is about to come into full view. Heaven wasn't withholding, it was preparing. Every moment of waiting, every unanswered question, was building a foundation strong enough to carry what's next. And now, the time has come. Heaven is declaring, you are ready. Your missteps weren't mistakes. They were lessons in disguise. Every detour, every heartbreak, every closed door wasn't meant to destroy you, but to shape you. Those moments weren't accidents. They were intentional questions designed to prepare your heart for what's ahead. Would you let the pain harden you or soften you? Would you trust the process even when it didn't make sense? Every betrayal asked if you could forgive, every disappointment asked if you could still hope, and every delay asked if your faith could outlast your frustration. Many remain stuck, not because they lack ability, but because they let their wounds define them. But not you. You chose healing over bitterness, courage over fear, and faith over doubt. And even when you didn't realize it, you were passing every test, proving that you were ready for the next chapter all along. Every act of forgiveness when anger felt justified, every step of faith when fear loomed large, and every refusal to let pain harden your heart was not overlooked. Heaven saw it all. What seemed like detours or mistakes were actually moments of preparation, intentional tests shaping your character for what's ahead. Could Joseph have carried the weight of leadership in Egypt if he had let bitterness consume him? Could David have worn the crown if he had taken matters into his own hands instead of trusting God's timing? In the same way, your trials weren't random, they were refining you. Every choice you made, every time you chose grace over resentment, patience over haste, and trust over doubt, you proved you were ready. Ready not just for elevation, but for the responsibility and blessing that comes with it. You didn't just endure those trials, you overcame them, and in doing so, you revealed a strength that could only be forged through fire. Heaven watched as you faced pain, rejection, and uncertainty, not with bitterness, but with resilience. You didn't just stumble through, you rose above. The people who betrayed you never held your destiny in their hands, and the doors that closed were only redirections to something greater. Every detour, every setback was part of a divine plan, guiding you precisely where you were meant to be. The test was never about avoiding the storm, it was about whether the storm could shake your foundation. And because you stood firm, because you refused to let hardship define you, you've stepped into a season of abundance, unlocking blessings far beyond what you ever dreamed possible. Your unseen sacrifices were the seeds of your greatest rewards. No one saw the tears you cried in silence, the strength it took to keep going when everything in you wanted to stop, or the quiet prayers you sent up when the weight felt unbearable. The world celebrates what's visible, the victories that can be applauded, but heaven treasures the hidden moments, the ones where you chose perseverance over surrender, faith over fear, and love over self-pity. Every time you gave your all to others while quietly carrying your own burdens, every time you chose to keep believing when doubt screamed louder, those moments didn't just matter. They became the extra credit that heaven is now turning into blessings beyond measure. People thought you were simply waiting, but they didn't see the strength it took to keep going in the unseen moments. They didn't see the battles you fought in your mind, the courage it took to keep believing when nothing seemed to move, or the quiet determination that kept you building when progress felt invisible. You weren't just waiting, you were preparing, growing, and trusting. You worked through the silence, through the frustration, through the moments when giving up felt easier. And every step you took in faith, every effort you made when no one was watching, laid the foundation for what's coming next. Those moments weren't wasted, they were the proving ground for your breakthrough. In life, extra credit isn't for the ones who settle, it's for those who strive to rise above, to go beyond what's expected. That's what set you apart. While others did just enough to get by, you gave your all, even when it hurt. You didn't just hold on to faith when the path was clear, you clung to it when the world around you was crumbling. You didn't just show up when the road was smooth, you showed up when every step felt like a battle. And because of that, heaven didn't just see you as someone who endured, it saw you as someone who excelled. You weren't just marked as ready, you were marked as chosen, as someone destined for something far greater. You gained strength in ways others couldn't because you gave what others wouldn't. The prayers you thought disappeared into silence were heard and treasured. The obedience you offered when no one noticed was seen and valued. Every unseen sacrifice, every quiet act of faith, every tear shed in solitude, they weren't forgotten. They built a foundation, brick by brick, for something extraordinary. You didn't just survive, you soared. And now, every hidden battle you fought, Every moment you chose faith over fear is unfolding into a reward so great it can only reflect the depth of what you gave when no one else was watching. You survived storms that were meant to drown you, battles that were crafted to break you beyond repair. These weren't just challenges, they were deliberate attempts to erase you, to silence your purpose. The enemy didn't just want to slow you down, he wanted to stop you completely. And yet, here you are, stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever. The fires that consumed others only refined you, shaping you into someone unshakable. The very fact that you're still standing is proof of your victory. The resistance you felt wasn't a sign of weakness, it was confirmation of your strength and the magnitude of your calling. The enemy fought you so fiercely because he knew what you were capable of on the other side. Now that you've made it through, you're not just a survivor, you're a force to be reckoned with. The battles you faced were never accidental. Every setback, every betrayal, every attack was a calculated attempt to stop you before you reached your breakthrough. But what the enemy underestimated was your perseverance. Yes, you lost things along the way. Yes, there were tears, moments of doubt, and seasons where the weight felt unbearable. But you didn't quit. You pressed on when others would have walked away. And because of that, you didn't just survive. You overcame with a strength that could only come from above. Heaven didn't just watch you struggle, heaven watched you rise. The doors opening now aren't by chance. They're the result of your endurance, your faith, and your refusal to give up. You passed the ultimate test, and now you're stepping into a season that reflects the magnitude of what you've conquered. This isn't just a reward, it's your destiny unfolding. You weren't tested on how much you knew, you were tested on how much you trusted. Knowledge is easy to hold on to when life is smooth, but trust is forged in the fire of uncertainty. Anyone can say the right words or quote the right scripture, but the true test is living those words when your world feels like it's crumbling. Heaven wasn't looking for how much you could recite. It was watching to see if you would still believe when the answers didn't come, when the doors didn't open, when the path ahead was dark. Did you trust when the wait felt endless? Did you trust when the outcome wasn't what you prayed for? That's what mattered most. Faith isn't about knowing every step, it's about taking the next one, even when you can't see the road ahead. That's what made you different, what set you apart. While others only trusted when the path was clear, only praised when the blessings were obvious, you chose to believe even when the evidence was missing. You weren't just tested on what you could recite, you were tested on how deeply you could trust. You didn't just read about faith, you became it. You became the embodiment of hope in the darkness, trust in the chaos, and perseverance in the unknown. When everything around you screamed to give up, you chose to hold on. That's why heaven is lifting you now, not because of what you said, but because of who you became. You are living proof that faith works, that trust is rewarded, and that God's promises never fail. And now heaven is declaring your time has come. The delays weren't denials, they were divine protection. What felt like a setback was actually a setup for something far greater than you imagined. You weren't being punished, you were being prepared. God wasn't withholding from you, He was positioning you. The waiting wasn't about keeping you from something, it was about keeping you for something. Some doors had to stay shut because walking through them too soon would have led you away from His best. What you thought was rejection was actually redirection. If certain things had happened earlier, they would have looked good, but would have stolen your focus from the true promise. The wait wasn't wasted, it was weaving together the perfect timing for the blessing that's coming. Delay tests, patience, and faith. Would you still believe when everything seemed still? Would you keep holding on when others seemed to race ahead? The truth is, you weren't overlooked or forgotten, you were being protected. Heaven wasn't just preparing a door for you, it was preparing the right door. While others may have rushed into fleeting opportunities that couldn't withstand the wait, you were being refined for something enduring. Your waiting wasn't in vain, it was a season of preparation for a moment that required divine timing. If you had stepped into certain opportunities too soon, You might have missed the fullness of what was meant for you or found yourself surrounded by the wrong people. Sometimes the delay isn't denial, it's alignment. It's heaven orchestrating the perfect moment, not just for you, but for the destiny and connections that will shape your future. The waiting wasn't wasted, it was preparation for your moment of alignment. What once felt like an unnecessary delay was heaven orchestrating the perfect timing. Now the pieces are falling into place, and the opportunities that once seemed out of reach are coming to you effortlessly. This time, you won't have to push, plead, or shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. The doors opening now are tailored to your purpose, designed to match the destiny God has prepared for you. What felt like a setback was actually a divine setup, ensuring that when the moment came, you would be ready to step into it fully. The difference between what you thought you wanted and what you're about to receive is proof that heaven's timing is always perfect. Rejection wasn't the end, it was the beginning of your redirection. What felt like breaking was actually shaping, carving you into the person you were always meant to be. Every closed door, every person who doubted you or walked away, was unknowingly aligning you with your higher purpose. Rejection wasn't a reflection of your worth, it was a revelation of where you didn't belong. You weren't created to blend in or be accepted by everyone. You were created to stand out, to be set apart for something greater. What once felt like loss was actually divine protection, guiding you to the places and people who were always meant to recognize your value. Every painful no was a necessary step toward your destiny. You weren't meant to stay in spaces where your worth was questioned or where you had to constantly prove your value. The wrong rooms had to close their doors so the right ones could open wide and welcome you. If you had been accepted too soon, you might have settled for something far beneath the greatness you were called to. Heaven allowed those rejections not to harm you, but to protect you from attachments that would have limited your potential. Just like Joseph's rejection led him to his purpose in Egypt, and David's dismissal by his own father positioned him for kingship, your rejections are aligning you with something far greater. Even Jesus faced rejection, and yet it fulfilled the plan for his ultimate purpose. Your journey is no exception. Some people couldn't walk with you, some rooms couldn't contain you, and some connections would have only drained or distracted you. What felt like rejection was actually divine redirection, leading you closer to the life you were always meant to live. The rejection was never about your inadequacy, it was about divine protection over your destiny. Every closed door, every goodbye, every moment you felt dismissed was heaven's way of saying, "Not here, keep moving forward." You weren't being cast aside, you were being redirected to a place where your presence wouldn't just be acknowledged, but celebrated. The right people are on their way, not to merely tolerate you, but to embrace and value the unique purpose you carry. What once felt like loss is about to reveal itself as gain as you step into spaces where your worth isn't just recognized, but deeply needed. The rejection you once grieved is now becoming the foundation of your elevation. While you felt overlooked and forgotten, heaven was orchestrating something far greater than you could see. Your name was being spoken in places you hadn't even imagined, and doors were being prepared long before you knew they existed. In the silence, when it seemed like nothing was happening, everything was actually falling into place just beyond your view. The isolation wasn't abandonment, it was preparation. The right people, the right opportunities, and the right timing were being aligned perfectly for your arrival. What felt like stillness was heaven working behind the scenes, ensuring that when your moment came, it would be undeniable and unstoppable. You weren't being overlooked, you were being prepared. Obscurity wasn't punishment, it was protection, a sacred space where greatness could quietly take root and grow. Just like David in the fields, Esther in her hidden season, and Joseph in the prison, your time of being unseen was never wasted. In the silence, your character was being refined, your gifts sharpened, and your purpose solidified. Elevation requires a foundation, and that foundation is built in the hidden places. This is why you couldn't rush the process or force doors open, because what's coming is far greater than anything you could have achieved on your own. The waiting wasn't in vain. It was the birthplace of your destiny. The doors you're about to walk through weren't opened by human hands. They were unlocked by divine favor. While you wondered if your time would ever come, heaven was orchestrating every detail, ensuring that everything would align perfectly. Your name was being spoken in the right circles, and favor was being attached to it in ways you couldn't imagine. The right people weren't ignoring you. They were waiting for the divine signal, the perfect moment to bring you into the space that was designed specifically for you. What's ahead wasn't built on human validation, but on God's recommendation, and no one can take away what He has prepared for you. Now you're stepping into spaces where the groundwork has already been laid. You won't need to strive or prove yourself. God has gone before you, paving the way and preparing hearts to receive you. The silence you once endured wasn't emptiness. It was preparation for the sudden acceleration that's now unfolding. Your name has been spoken in places you've yet to see, and every step you've taken has been divinely orchestrated. The door you've been waiting for is about to swing wide open, and when it does, you'll realize it was always meant for you. You were never meant to blend in. You were designed to stand out as a solution to a problem only you could solve. Your path wasn't random, and your struggles weren't without purpose. Every challenge, every delay, every hardship was refining you, shaping you into the answer you were created to be. Those called to bring light to others must first walk through darkness to understand its weight. You weren't just passing through life aimlessly. You were being molded for something significant, something that will impact others in ways you can't yet see. You are not just a participant in this world. You are a purpose in motion. The pain of your process wasn't meant to break you. It was meant to build you. Only those who have been refined by fire can carry the weight of true purpose. Unprepared vessels crack under pressure, and incomplete answers only create confusion. But not you. You endured, you grew, and you allowed the process to shape you into someone who can handle the responsibility of your calling. Now, you carry something rare, something powerful, something the world desperately needs. The weight you bear isn't a burden. It's the evidence of your preparation and the key to your impact. Your pain had a purpose, and your journey was never aimless. Like Moses, Esther, and Joseph, you weren't meant to walk an ordinary path. You were crafted to be an extraordinary answer. Their struggles weren't punishment. They were preparation for the weight of their calling. Answers don't come cheap, and neither does the process to become one. The detours, the delays, the closed doors, they weren't setbacks. They were divine refinements. You couldn't take the easy road because your purpose required depth, resilience, and strength. You weren't made to fit in. You were made to transform, to shift atmospheres, and to lead others into something greater. The pain you faced wasn't a sign of rejection. It was a sign of preparation. You were being entrusted with something far greater than you could imagine, something the world desperately needs. While others may chase titles and recognition, you were being shaped to carry solutions that bring real change. Every trial, every tear, every moment of doubt was equipping you for this very moment. Now the time has come to step forward. Heaven is calling you to rise, not as just another figure in the story, but as a key to unlocking what's been waiting to be revealed. You are not just here to exist. You are here to transform. Your wilderness was never meant to break you. It was meant to build you. Before elevation comes isolation, and before greatness comes preparation. The scarcity you faced, the silence you endured, and the struggles you overcame were not punishments. They were lessons. God wasn't withholding from you, He was shaping you. True leadership isn't forged in comfort, but in crisis. It's in the desert, not the palace, where character is refined, faith is tested, and resilience is born. Like Moses, David, and even Jesus, your time in the wilderness was proof that you could lead when no one was watching, believe when there was no evidence, and remain faithful when the path seemed unclear. Now you are ready, not just to walk in abundance, but to steward it with integrity, wisdom, and grace. What you endured in obscurity has prepared you to lead in the light. You didn't just endure that season, you were refined by it. The lessons you learned in the wilderness weren't just for survival, they were for transformation. Now, as you step into abundance, you carry a depth of wisdom and humility that cannot be shaken. Power won't distort your purpose, and influence won't pull you off course, because you've been tested in the fire of lack and proven faithful. What once felt like a season of breaking was actually a season of building. Now, you won't just lead, you'll lead with integrity, compassion, and strength, stewarding the increase with the same faith and diligence that carried you through the storm. What seemed like a delay was never a denial. It was divine preparation. Every moment of waiting, every closed door, and every detour was proof that God was crafting something greater than you could have envisioned. The waiting wasn't wasted. It was building the strength, wisdom, and character you would need for what's ahead. Now, because you remained faithful through the process, you're stepping into leadership, not through striving or ambition, but through divine timing and purpose. This is not just a position, it's a calling, and you've been entrusted with it because you've proven you are ready. Your journey was never meant to mirror anyone else's, because your purpose was never ordinary. The battles you faced, the questions you carried, and the struggles that seemed insurmountable were all part of a test uniquely designed for you. Others may not have understood, and some may have even doubted, but that's because they weren't called to the same level of responsibility. What seemed unfair was actually intentional. God was preparing you for something greater, something that required a deeper level of strength, endurance, and faith. While others walked easier paths, yours was carved to take you higher, to refine you for a purpose that demanded more. Your hardships weren't random. They were the foundation for the greatness you're stepping into. Your battles were never meaningless. They were tailored to reveal the depth of your faith, the strength of your heart, and the resilience of your spirit. Each challenge was a question only you could answer. Would you hold on to hope when the odds were stacked against you? Would you choose forgiveness when pain tried to harden you? Would you stay committed to your purpose when the path seemed blocked at every turn? These weren't arbitrary struggles. They were intentional tests designed to refine you for the exact calling God has placed on your life. Every victory, every tear, every moment of perseverance was preparing you to step fully into the assignment only you were created to fulfill. Heaven didn't just acknowledge your endurance, it celebrated your excellence. You didn't merely survive the test, you mastered it, and that mastery has unlocked a new dimension of purpose for your life. This isn't just a step forward, it's a leap into uncharted territory, a realm where the struggles of the past no longer define you. You're not returning to the same battles, the same patterns, or the same limitations. This time, you're walking in authority, equipped with the strength and wisdom born from your trials. While others may have passed and stayed where they were, you excelled, and that excellence has transformed you. Your promotion isn't just about moving ahead, it's about stepping into a completely new identity, one shaped by victory and destined for greatness. The season you're stepping into now demands a completely new version of you, one that no longer operates in survival mode, but thrives in authority and purpose. You've been transformed by the trials you endured, and the strategies that once kept you afloat are no longer needed because you are no longer the same. Like Joseph, you've moved from the pit to a position of influence. Like David, you've left the cave behind to take your rightful place on the throne. Like Esther, you've been elevated to a role where your voice carries the power to impact nations. This isn't just a new chapter, it's a new era where you no longer fight to survive, but step boldly into your destiny as a leader, a ruler, and a changer of worlds. You aren't simply moving forward, you're being elevated into a realm of purpose that carries greater authority, greater reach, and greater responsibility. Every trial, every moment of silence, and every refining fire was preparing you for this moment, not just to step into a new season, but to step into divine dominion. You no longer need to prove your worth. Heaven has already validated you in the hidden places. The graduation you didn't even realize you were walking through has positioned you for leadership, influence, and impact on a scale you never imagined. The struggles of your past weren't just challenges, they were the foundation being laid for the extraordinary future you're about to build. Now you're stepping into a season where the lessons of your pain will become the tools of your purpose, and the spaces you're entering aren't just opportunities. They are assignments crafted specifically for you. The wilderness felt endless, but it was never your final destination. It was the proving ground for the throne that was always meant to be yours. This was never about merely surviving the trials. It was about being shaped, refined, and prepared for a purpose far greater than you could see. You weren't just passing through, you were being set apart. Heaven wasn't testing your endurance, it was crafting your character, sharpening your vision, and fortifying your spirit because you were chosen. Every challenge, every closed door, every moment of waiting, and every unseen battle wasn't a punishment, it was preparation. Only those destined for greatness could withstand such a process, and now you're stepping into the fulfillment of what you were always being prepared for. This isn't just the end of a season, it's the beginning of your reign. You didn't achieve victory because the path was smooth, you triumphed because you refused to give up when the road was rough. Look at you now. The storms that came to shatter you only strengthened your foundation. The wilderness that sought to quiet your voice only amplified your purpose, and the battles that aimed to drain you only propelled you higher. You didn't just survive, you transformed. You became the living evidence of what it means to be chosen, to rise above, and to step into destiny with resilience and grace. This wasn't just about enduring trials, it was about becoming the kind of person who could carry the weight of greatness without being broken by it. You are not just a conqueror, you are the proof of what it means to thrive in the face of every challenge. And here's the reality, you've been forever changed. You're no longer questioning your readiness or doubting your place. You are ready, and you know it. You've been molded in the fire, set apart for a purpose far greater than you imagined. The doors that once shut in your face will now swing open with ease. The spaces that once overlooked you will now seek you out, and those who underestimated you will stand in awe of the transformation that has unfolded. This isn't just the turning of a page, it's the beginning of an entirely new story. A story where you walk with confidence, authority, and purpose. The preparation is complete, the waiting is over, and now you step forward, not as who you were, but as the person you were always meant to become. Heaven hasn't just acknowledged you, it has elevated you. You didn't merely endure, you've been anointed, appointed, and entrusted with a purpose that has always been written for you. Step forward with boldness and confidence, knowing that every trial prepared you for this moment. The declaration has already been made. You are ready. If this resonates deep within you, if your spirit feels the confirmation, don't hold it back. Share this truth, speak life into someone else, and let them know that their time is coming too. You are living proof of what it means to rise into destiny. There are people around you right now who are struggling to see the purpose in their pain, questioning if the trials they faced were worth it. Be the voice that reminds them it all had meaning, that every tear, every setback, and every challenge was part of a greater plan. And if you haven't already, make the choice to stay connected to messages like this, because this isn't just inspiration, it's affirmation. It's a reminder that you are exactly where you're meant to be, in perfect alignment with divine timing. Turn on your notifications, stay engaged, and prepare your heart, because what's ahead is greater than anything you've imagined. Your breakthrough is already unfolding, and your elevation is unstoppable.